This is Dr. Justina Agnieszka Chevallier. In this last video, I would like to first specify who that offer and that information is for. It is for all of humans who are capable of understanding, and that's why also it is in sound, including persons who cannot see, and persons, because there are also footnotes, who can provide such in paper, can approach me and email me, because I can and have simplified, like I've done that in one of the places I've stayed working, the explanation of that information in detail to pursue utmost and possible to obtain comprehension of all of that information to enable person as personal self-advocate, patient advocate in all of health pursuits that will definitely burden me, and do not assume that you having no familiarity with that information that you know it. The same is for all customers of fast food chains, addiction programs and of any sort of remediation, told that they will be dead, that they are chronically inferior, or that they are in some sort of lower capacity in any way, or have that sense or perception all the time determining work as source of sexual desire, which is, like I said already, specified. If I do a video, I cannot pursue a child with another person who loves me, loving that person being source of such degree and such magnitude of love and desire, because I cannot do that in possessive love, in then protection, instinctive protection of that person from sight of all others, and protection of self being loved and loving that person for that desire as exclusive source as opposed to all others. I cannot do such, and no one can, having maturity and seek in all of erotic videos assumption or hope that one at least of these persons will, when that is sexual maturation of those persons, like I took action on demand on Pornhub and on many other sexual sites to increase awareness that sex is source of children, and marker of that is superior to all of others pleasure, as opposed to less pleasure when one is rejected at any point as source of being a parent physically. And that does have something to do with sharing space with one person and pursuit of the burdening of one another in common shared activities, in precise of such alignment above everything else. And that leads me to who that is then. Any place that would like to become honest, but by stopping psychological, for instance, manipulation, that the place dispenses free shoes, manipulation of prices by placing 99 cents instead of placing the actual price, and adding tax to it in all of the places. If places pursue also an impression of incapacity or lack of skill or knowledge that will cost lives, and omission of such cost harm to others also, and then hatred for that person, remember that is possible to change very easily, and I provide also such evaluation, and quickly persons can adjust the whole area for optimization of own budgets and optimization of provision based on demand of work, and when such is absent, pursuit of time and in freedom of capacitation of self to pursue significant, most loved other, or a person who actually functions depending on clear separation of sex and love, on provision of optimal work to be able to pursue work and personal relationship in exclusion of self, lacking joy and pleasure from life because that person has never been able to be pursued by a females in accusation of past relationships prevented that person from such, and pursued persons in assumption that that person in this love insinuates the truth, while the other one does have somebody else a work or something that is rudimentary, like hobbies or some sort of other activities to obtain pleasure. Also, for instance, recreational drugs that give sense of pleasure. And that is next to tell you what the list is of additional readings that I am preparing for self-publishing and also submitted to editors. You can email me and obtain them, or you'll be able to purchase them when I am ready. That is first that was, by the way, an example of what I provide for restaurants and other with second cause, and not secondary but primary, reduction of creating diseases or interventions that cause harm to zero, limiting to non-existing, basically, in pursuit of a non-killing lifestyle and non-participation in scope in any omission of any living beings in doing such every day. While also, for instance, throwing away, like I said, meat when there's plant food available, to have that plant food, expensive one, when another animal is being killed and harmed, does not cure and does not provide any sort of relief. And so that is an example of when that is, if you don't feel like it, leave it alone. I don't know, you can make out of it a burial, but also you may, if prepared, offer it to others, inform about need to stop and cease harming, killing, and forced fertilization in humans and in animals. That leads also to enabling such with drugs, barbiturates, and killing humans and animals in bright light, so that we can afford death in meat consumption, in obesity. That makes no sense, as I explained before. So I offer that also, sexual education for children and teenagers. I offer also education in capacitation for workers in a given company, in amelioration, as I heard a person screaming, my significant other, whoever that is, right now has 20 or something hours shift. Well, that is, if causing distress, perceived in that person also as distress, and creates fear of doing work discovered in pursuits of personal relationship and in family violence. So it needs to be elaborated also as who is greatest love source, and added significant other means opposite gender to start with, and then added to it who in reciprocity pursues that relationship to have the health, the Origins of Evil, second book I wrote, also capacitated persons, that the pursuit of that mind and body relationship when there is harm in the ecosystem is not possible, and presents then visions of violence, dreams of violence, and in reality is then related to lying or non-pursuit of the relationship, especially when somebody else is most important and relevant as work source and source especially of actually capacitation of that person to pursue own children, if that was past with any sorts relationship, as opposed to pursuit in this love children that are in suffering, modeling on prior models, meat-like ones, is source of that misunderstanding. For example, second, so schools, hospitals. I have extensive work and presented as personal dissertation at the end of medical school, burnout syndrome in residents and fellows of private and public hospitals, as well as starting at baseline of that as in students, and ramping it up also later on to personal pursuit of doing that covertly in recordings and pursue that information because of fear of being disabled to pursue a patient care when having such urge, and given labels as sick of to have fight or flight instinct to pursue well-being of a patient, labeled as disease and killing that person, and that is wrong. Second, also to prevent that the opposite person who is at verge of self always a source of exhaustion and does not have such instinct, that person is not impeded for pursuit of own personal most wanted relationship or pursuit of work in something else when that does correspond to own enthusiasm and physical capacities, one always leading to the other. And so that is what I can do also for hospitals, because I have experience in that, and I can do that for consultants, enabling persons for maximum use of that information for selves to not need me anymore, so that I don't have to be that, and based on demand, while delegating to others. I can do also field evaluation for epidemiologic offices and, as I said, jails and correctional facilities, wherever there is demand. Please do not anymore kidnap me or my colleagues and force an impression that in pain or degradation, creating such same circumstances, I will provide forced remediation of such, because that is provided despite, not because of pain and threats done, as opposed to funds and connections and esteem that I need to be able for those persons to hire me also and collaborate with me in elaboration of own personal plan or in plan for a group. So that it has been done in Mexico, and in here don't do that anymore. And the next is also important. So books I've written are The Last Evil Man, which is for novitiate and persons who pursue relative or absolute celibacy first, and all persons interested. That book is very good. Remember, all of humans that are priests and nuns have right to be capacitated to pursue own relationship in own talents, existing ones, appropriate to that person's role right now in society, and memories of respect and capacity pursued for free now, also for fee, and having a salary, household, etc. I delegate you, for instance, Changtaizen Center, nuns from in the state of Indiana, who many of them suffer from absent and non-passable funds mandatorily waived to pursue absolute celibacy in vows, and done such in pressure of parents or social pressures, or in own wanting to pursue such, having someone who inspired pursuit of own child, for instance, and having such chance, give those persons dignity and time to announce this is official date for that person in non-pursuit of sexual contact, to corroborate on such degree of love, mutual one, in pursuit of mutual well-being, that it may become a marriage, and that person can have in freedom also funds, when that is not the case, to not pursue it, and then return, like in Chantai, to celibacy. Do not keep persons which told me explicitly, I want to be paid for work, being celibate, because I am seriously deprived of such capacity to be able to provide any more work based on emotional capacity, and pursue later on relationship. Remember, I am celibate. That is non-relative. I have no partners, boyfriends, and do not pursue such. So never interpret any of my work as such for now. Plus, I am a female, and if there were to be in the future any suitors for my hand, that is based on my personal evaluation only, and evaluation of others, when that person would be in reciprocity, the most serious and therefore most sexually desired person to pursue child together, and I know who does not have such chance and determines it. So respect that. And don't enforce illegal based on suffering relationships, based on whim and secondary sources or harassment. Or remediation later on of removal from self when persons harass instead of obtention of provision of knowledge and services that I am providing, and me obtention of budget to implement those. I can write grants, I can delegate to writing grants. I have experience in team management, a team of experts. I've also can do so for free. If such is dire need, please don't kidnap me and give me, enable me, having basic expenses covered in dignified distinction of self, as opposed to forcing into same situation to having to do so because persons require such. Second is also, so Last Evil Man, that is possible to obtain from me, Charlis Ines Satori Publishing. I will publish it and enable payment so that you actually give me such chance to have that budget also for own basic expenses, not experiences. experiences also to be able to avoid sexual harassment non-stop and ongoing for all of women after divorce. And next is also to add to it, apart from last evil men, thank you police of the United States, especially police of Washington, state of Washington, and selected especially Bishop State of California for provision of information at expense of own well-being in non-pursuit of any personal relationships, provision of work.